the ability to be able to be enough and get on with it, regardless, is something that I think we all need to. I think we actually do it more often than we than we kind of acknowledge.
Meaning that you have the "I'm not enough" thought more often than not.
More often than not. Yeah, and I hear it in people that surprise me when when you look at them, they're achieving great heights in their life and in their business, and yet they will still have this question mark that says, but am I enough to make a difference? Am I enough today to make sure that my kids still love me?
I see comments, but it's live. We're live.
We're live. This is so exciting. I love that we get to do this, and I'm actually really thrilled, before we officially open this, that I don't have to do it on my own. It is brilliant that I have you here to share this first experience with, Ian.
And normally I'm the tech person in any of these relationships, so I'm so happy that I've been able to let that go.
Well, I can tell you I'm not usually the tech person, but I did marry the tech person, and I made him tell me what it is I needed to do to allow the tech to happen.
Brilliant.
All right, so officially we're right on the hour that we wanted to start this. I have to say it's 9 o'clock here on a Friday here in Australia. Curious to know, Ian, what time is it where you are in the world?
7 p.m. on Thursday evening, baby.
And you are in?
Oh, sorry. I'm in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Sorry. I take for granted that people know where I come from. And anyways, obviously not.
Oh, Aussies love knowing where you come from because, you know.
I don't have an accent. You do. Right?
No. You have the accent.
No.
Oh, my goodness. All right. So what I thought we'd start with is maybe introduce what it is you do in the world, Ian.
Okay, so I refer to myself as a life fulfillment coach. I help people to remove some of those blocks that they've adopted as from their childhood, right? And help them to make that transition from maybe the job that they've got or the life that they've got into something that's more satisfying, more fulfilling.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so for me, Balance Central is really I like to refer to it as a vehicle to allow others to show up. So what I do is allow them to engage with their own leadership capacity. So I refer to myself as a personal growth specialist because it really is about getting into where people need to grow. And that can look like anything, but I really love going deep into the personal growth.
And where did we meet?
We met in January this year, which was fun. So we were part of a conference that was online, a little bit more time friendly for you, a little less time friendly for me because I'd had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be on the conference.
To do it live.
To do it live, yes, because I didn't want to do pre-recorded and not show up. I committed to being at the conference. But what I loved and why it kind of does underline the why we are doing this today is that after being awake, actually, even though I was on the call at 3 a.m. in the morning, that meant I'd got up at 1 o'clock in the morning. And anyone that knows me knows that I am not the night person. Like I can do early morning, but not that early in the morning. So by the time I actually got to meet you online in that conference, I'd been awake for a good number of hours and that jet lag, tired feel was starting to kick in and my brain was fried. I had no brain cells left to use.
I hope you're going to say the line that you gave me when you walked into my room. You have to share the line that you used.
I don't remember the exact line. Maybe
you don't remember?
No.
Ian, so in this conference, you got a chance once we did this main section, you could select which speaker I want to go into, who do I want to listen to, what do I want to learn over the next 20 minutes. So Chris picked my room and she said, Ian, I know I'm not going to have to think too hard listening to you.
Yeah.
And it completely broke the ice for me because this was my first talk and I wasn't sure how this was going to go, and my first conference in this regard. And it broke the ice for me. It made it okay to just be me while you zoned out and maybe contributed at the end.
Which I don't think I did. And it was, for me, it was such a comfort place. I could just go there. My brain wasn't being stretched anymore. And it's not because you didn't have something to offer, but I didn't have to kind of trawl through information. I was just able to listen, and it was so easy to absorb what it was you were saying. And it was just what I needed while my brain had no capacity left. And so I really valued that particular connection, and I wanted to make sure that we had more conversations, which of course we did.
Yep.
And then that last chat we had, there's so many times that I connect with people. I've done this for years through networking, and you have a conversation and you feel like there might be something there that someone else might benefit, or that coming together might create something more magical than just the individual person. And I had that feeling when we had that conversation, and I was like, well, if we did a conversation and was able to share that conversation with others, maybe we can create something beyond ourselves.
Which spoke to me, because a lot of the work that I've done, if I'm thinking about the podcasts that I've done or the weekly conversations that I have with my followers, I love sharing stories about myself because I think it makes it not only okay for them to have similar feelings and experiences, but it normalizes everything. And then you don't feel so alone.
Well, yes. And that's something that we can all get caught up in, isn't it? Is that sort of, we're an island and we just have to deal with our everyday all on our own.
There's a lot that goes on inside of this thing. There's a lot of conversation inside this one head. It's not with anybody else. So, yeah.
Yeah. So then we moved to what we wanted to share today. And this is just topic number one. There are so many topics you and I are going to tackle. I can just feel it in my bones. But today we want to talk about being enough. And we timed this.
What? Being enough? Me? That's not me. I'm the not enough guy. We can't talk about being enough.
See, Aussies and Canadians do sarcasm so well.
It's a lot of practice between me and my brothers. That's all.
So we picked today to do this because you've had a particularly significant week leading into today. Well, and
yeah, even in just discussing what are we going to talk about in 2 weeks from now, which is now, right? I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come up in this week prior to. And what happened was I ended up taking a public speaking course that was intensive and packed in. And I just knew I would be triggered with the whole being enough thing.
And so we want to know what was you, where were you triggered? Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so where do you want me to start?
Oh, well, where was your first thought that you went, am I enough to be able to do this?
Okay, so I guess I have to start pre-course, because I didn't know why I needed to take this course, But when I met the individual who was running it, Eduardo, I just knew that the way he was being, I needed to feel and be more like that in my public speaking when I showed up in front of other people. Because I would get so attached to the words the words that I would craft and nitpick on and then re-nitpick on became a crutch, and I would put them up on the screen and I would glance over and then I would stay there. And then I would ad-lib something and I'd be like, I have no idea where I am anymore. So I needed to feel okay just being me and trusting that what I had for stories and information and whatever that was coming through me was enough. And I just got the sense that whatever he was dishing out, I needed a scoop of, you know? So I dove in. I threw my money at him, and which I never do. And I did it. And it was scary as hell. But it was worth it, because at every turn they threw curveballs at you. So you would like prepare your like 5-minute thing. They gave you 10 minutes to prepare a 5-minute talk. And then after that 10 minutes, you had to deliver that 5 minutes. And then after that 5 minutes, you got immediate coaching and feedback and notes. And then you had to incorporate those notes into that 5-minute speech. So it was like, there's no way to attach yourself to the words that you wrote because you had no time to rewrite it. So I had to be okay with, this is going to be enough, whatever this is, in this 5-minute period.
So it's a really interesting way that you describe that, because it reminds me of something I did earlier this week as well, which I didn't know would be similar. However, it's this kind of chaos theory, but in a really, really effective way, where you are put on the spot and you have to simply react in the moment rather than doing all that preparation behind the scenes, so that you literally learning, like getting that muscle of what's best in the moment, a bit of practice. I guess it's like going to the gym, which I know you are very familiar with doing, and just working that muscle so that it gets stronger and stronger and stronger.
And I like the analogy. It's good because I use those all the time. It does. It has to be in the muscle. And that whole weekend was about training a muscle that in my mind doesn't exist, right? So I remember being at a physiotherapist, and there's a little muscle right next to your knee, and he or she, I can't remember now, said, flex that muscle. I'm like, what? How? Like, I don't know what to do to make that thing squeeze. And it took about 5 minutes, and she's like, yeah, that one. So that's what it felt like in this weekend program. It was like you had to develop over the weekend a muscle that maybe isn't your strength, right?
Or a known strength. I think this is interesting, isn't it? Because it's not a known strength. You don't, if you don't know you can do something because you've never tried it before, you eliminate it already.
Okay, so the distinction though for me, I think, is what do I think I'm good at versus what am I good at?
Yes.
So I think I'm actually pretty good at shooting from the hip if I don't have any notes. But if I do have notes, I will rely on those, and I will stick with them to my detriment.
I was going to say, and those conversations in your head in those moments would be fascinating. If you were to,
where I know I screwed up, and now what do I do? And I had that moment actually happen in one of those, like there was a line that I knew I wanted to keep, and I missed it and went to the next subject, and I'm like, oh crap, you missed the line. What are you going to do now to recover? So I'm no longer in my body speaking from that moment. I'm now in my head thinking, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, what do you do? So I'm no longer with everybody else. I'm gone.
Yeah.
But when I was able to settle down and breathe, then I was able to go, okay, that's gone now. On to the next. You'll recover the way you need to recover at some point later. You'll make it work.
Yeah, and I remember, particularly with public speaking and professional speaking, is that, or any speaking, so whether you put it public or professional, doesn't really matter. Any speaking, whether it's to 500 people or to one person, when we can allow ourselves to, like what we prepare in that conversation, the other person or the other 500 people actually don't know what it is we have prepared. So nobody else knows that you missed it. And it's only within ourselves, all that internal, well, that was the line that I needed to use. And yet in front of that person or that group, that may not actually have been the line that needed to be used.
Yeah.
And so often we decide that our preparation is so vital, and yet no one else knows what we've prepared. So if you've missed a line, you can just put it aside. Yeah. And it just was never meant to be said. So I love that you got that out of this whole exercise this week. How did you go? What was your feeling once you got to the end of your final presentation of your story?
I think actually my final version, like the actual live showcase version, was the best version. And maybe not be like, I think I did make a few like kind of verbal stumbles and things like that, but that wasn't why I think it was the best. The words didn't come out the same way as they did prior. Some of them were the same, but some of them were definitely new. But I managed my way through it without completely locking up. I used a lot of the cues that they gave me about my breathing, taking a pause. Even though that pause might seem long for me, it won't be that long for anybody else. So take that extra breath. Make sure your knees are still not locking up on you. Like feel your feet and your heels on the floor. So I had a few cues that were like to help me stay in my body and get out of this, right? And so in that regard, I think that kept me more in my body as opposed to in my head fretting about what I didn't do.
Yeah. And now, I mean, I think it's fascinating that we get to share a story about this. I mean, not everybody wants to do public speaking, and not everybody wants to do a public speaking course to really put their story on the line and put themselves on the line.
And I put it all out there. It's very, actually, you've heard a version of that story when I did my thing with you, right?
You meaning I'm supposed to remember that? Remember, I was jet lagged, essentially.
It's okay. Easy listening. Easy listening.
Was easy listening.
No. By the way, if anybody is listening to this before or after, please just put questions in. We'll get to them at some point or answer them post.
Absolutely. Totally up for that. What's really cool is that though that example you've given is, I think that we can apply that to every day. Like
everyday anything.
Sometimes I know I felt like I wake up in the morning and I'm lying in bed and I've got to tackle the day. And so what's really behind that thought process is, am I enough to tackle the day? And it may not be that I have to go out and do a presentation, although I do like to do them. It might be as simple as having a conversation that I don't know if I'm really comfortable in having, or needing to make sure that the family is all organized and out the door so that now I can get on with my day. And even though doesn't seem like it's life-changing for anyone else, or that it's speaking in front of other people or telling my personal story, the ability to be able to be enough and get on with it regardless is something that I think we all need to, I think we actually do it more often than we than we kind of acknowledge.
Meaning that you have the I'm not enough thought more often than not?
More often than not, Yeah, and I hear it in people that surprise me when when you look at them, they're achieving great heights in their life and in their business, and yet they will still have this question mark that says, but am I enough to make a difference? Am I enough today to make sure that my kids still love me by the end of the day?
Do you have an example that you can think that's recent?
Oh, for me, yes. So a week or so ago, actually it was a week ago today, I got a phone call and was asked to be a last minute speaker for a conference. Of course, living in pandemic world, and one of the states here in Australia has gone into lockdown again, which is always fun. So lucky Victoria, although admittedly they do come out of lockdown a little bit today. And so I was called to be a last minute speaker at a conference, and it's an hour and a half presentation and it's on next week. So I've spoken around the world, and I have spoken online, and I've spoken in person in front of people, run workshops for days in a row. I've done all of it. And yet with this one, I was still like, oh, have I got everything? And I don't know the group of people that I'm going for. And because it was such last minute, I didn't actually have the normal preparation that I would have leading in. So if I'm going to run a workshop for a client, I'll go, well, I'd really like to do this workshop. And who would these are the team members that could benefit. And I can really tailor to the business, to the team members, even to individuals, because I might know them. On Friday, when I got the call, it was literally, we need a speaker. It's for an hour and a half. Please send me your invoice. Go. And I went, sure. Oh my God, what do I do? And so I was...
Crank up the rates first and then...
Yeah, that's another conversation.
Am I worth that much? I don't know. Can I charge that much? No.
See, there's another one of being enough, isn't it? It is another example of being enough. But I actually handled that side of it actually really, really quite well. I was very, very forthcoming in what my fee needed to be. So that was okay, but it was the scramble behind the scenes. Have I got the right message? Well, if I'm going to deliver a message, I kind of want to know who my audience is.
100%, yeah.
I don't know who my audience is. Well, I know what industry they're in, and I know there's going to be 48 of them, and that's all I know. And so I started doing this bit of scramble. Oh, well, I've done this before. And as I was looking at the pieces of the workshop and presentations that I've done before, I was visualizing what I'd done in the past to try and piece together what I'm going to do on Monday. And then after I'd done that, everything has kind of come together, but it felt a bit disjointed. Mm. And so then I left it for a day and I didn't think about it. I didn't touch it. I didn't do anything. And then yesterday I looked at it again. And what I found was these tiny little tweaks. And as I was tweaking it and going, oh, this would be good for, and I'd started visualizing into the future. And I'd started applying it to this group that I have not even met yet. But I started to allow myself to imagine what that would look like and what it would feel like. And now I know that I've got my presentation structure sorted. I've got my story. I went and practiced my story yesterday, and I need it to be 10 minutes to allow the hour and a half to actually play out in the way that I want. And when I recorded it, it was 10 minutes and 6 seconds. So my timing of my story was spot on because I'd now tweaked it to that visual of what's in the future rather than drawing on all my past.
So what had to shift for you to be able to do that?
The shift was taking a break from it, was stepping away and letting the kind of structure sit on its own for a bit. so that I wasn't caught up in the middle of it and caught up in the, let's call it terror of what's this going to look like and who am I speaking to and what would that be like and how am I going to make sure that I get all. I stepped away. I gave it breathing space.
See, that's the thing that happens, I find, is we start getting in our head and trying to trying to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed, right? Like over planning it over because we don't think that what we have in our toolkit that comes naturally, that it's even there.
Yes. So I haven't applied. Well, I guess the it's a bit of a tool, but I wouldn't qualify it as a tool. I just took a breath, really, by just leaving it alone, deliberately not doing anything with it for a whole day, which allowed me to be busy with other clients and other priorities in my life. And I could focus on that. And then that workshop information kind of just went on in the background.
Sorry, in my head, I was just thinking, let it be, right? Let it be, but let it be, like it's you, it's coming from you. So
let it come from me rather than constructing it.
Yeah, you're trying to figure it out. No, let it be. Like, leave it be. Same thing happened with this speech stuff. I would spend a few hours working on it and tweaking it and trying to write it out the way I thought it was best to be. But there was always like chunky things that didn't quite feel right. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm done with this for now. I have family things to do. I need to go do a workout, take the kids in the pool. Like, there's other things that have to happen. This will be here tomorrow. I will look at it again tomorrow. Fresh eyes, fresh whatever. And that's when the golden pieces sort of came, like the line that I was struggling with that I knew needed to be good up front came to me. I think it was in the shower or whatever.
I was going to say, when you're distracted doing something else.
You're like, well, that something like that would be good. Okay, let me throw it in my phone real quick and I'll massage it later. But that seems way better than what I was trying to force to happen earlier.
Yeah. And when we apply that to our everyday, we get caught up in, I don't know, having to get the kids out the door. That is assuming you're not in COVID lockdown. Or let's say if you're not if you're not able to get the kids out the door, maybe getting the kids onto their online classroom so that they can get going. But kind of getting caught up in that moment and then or having an ability to just let that play out. And if we sort of deliberately put calmness, deliberately put ease onto a circumstance that we're questioning whether we're enough or whether we've got this or whether we're capable, because all of those phrases is all in the being enough, and just allow ease, deliberately choose ease. And I find just by doing that, it allows us to just change the dynamic that we have been existing in that moment. So when I do wake up and go, oh, I'm going to get up and tackle the day, I go with ease, and immediately I can get up and get on with what needs to happen for the day. So what would be the
switch or a trigger for you?
Sorry?
It's like a switch or a trigger to like switch the way that you're approaching your day instead of.
Absolutely, because I could feel the hardness. Yes. So what would be the one tool, if there is one? I don't know if there's just one, but is there something that you do to allow yourself to feel like you're enough?
Might not sound necessarily like a tool, but just breathing, right? I got caught up in this a lot in this weekend, and my story coach would be like, I'm feeling a lot of shallow breaths, Ian. I'm like, yeah, you're pulling that out of your back pocket for sure. Like, of course, I am hyperventilating almost, so I get that. But if I notice that in my day, no matter what the circumstance, if I'm fretting or stressing about anything, it's because I'm not breathing. So just taking the time to take some deep breaths deep into my chest cavity so that I can actually expel out some of those nerves, right? And start to recenter myself, plant my feet, try to feel. I've started to do a practice where I sit and meditate, but I kind of give myself my own guided meditation now, where I put my feet on the floor. I imagine my feet like growing roots so that I'm really grounded. And when I do that, generally I start to feel like sensations in my feet. Then I'll kind of like try to feel that energy like kind of wash through my body, and I'll notice it through each joint and muscle, through my hands. And then I try to imagine that I'm having any negative energy being kind of like drawn out of my body, like from roots right through the top of my head.
So I'm curious, is this something you practice daily or just when you
Well,
feel it's
I
necessary?
only created it a few weeks ago, but it's kind of become like a morning ritual. So I start off with that grounding meditation, roots, energy, and then it's kind of sucking out anything that I feel is like a negative thought, negative emotion. And it's weird because I can almost feel like like sucking a straw, like you kind of get like that
Oh, that
suction to your
last bit
body.
of ice, if you're drinking an iced coffee or something, you get the ice and it gets caught in the straw.
But I feel like there's like a drawing of energy that's coming out, almost like bubbles in a soda. You can like feel like that kind of like percolation, and then I try to imagine what kind of intention or feelings that I want to feel being replacing that after that. So I want to feel joy. I want to feel intention, um, abundance. I want to feel calm. I want to feel peace. I want to just be, or I want to trust. Whatever that moment requires for me to feel, I'll try to draw that in. And then I start off my day in such a better place where I know I've got the capacity inside of myself. I don't have to get it from somebody else. It's all internal.
And that's interesting because I do something similar on a daily basis and I start my day like that. However, complete reveal is that I can get through partway through my day and that being enough question will come and hit me, regardless of how calm I might have started, because other things have come in and
Life is still going to happen.
sideswiped me. Yes, life
Yeah.
happens. And so one of the other go-tos that I find really helpful for me is actually asking for help. As
Mm,
soon as I don't think I've got it, I give myself permission to go, I don't have this. I actually don't have it. And it allows me to stop being an island. It allows me to stop being the one that has to know everything.
mm,
And and I have to ask. It was a big learning for me through my 20s and 30s. I didn't ask anybody for anything because I almost didn't know how to, which sounds ridiculous because we all know how to say, "Can you help me?" But
it's not if it's not a trained muscle, it's not going to lift it, right?
yeah. So emotionally, I didn't have the capacity to ask for help. And I know that it's such a simple, it sounds really simple, but I never found it easy to do. And so I had to learn to ask for help, and the more I've done it, the easier it becomes. And the beautiful part of that is whenever I ask for help, I always get a yes. People are so willing to help because they are often finding what you're struggling with, they find easy.
Yeah.
So when I ask for help, they're like, that's a no-brainer. Where when I just find it overwhelming or I can't tackle it or I don't know where to start, they just pick it up like it's nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I've found over the years as I've progressed to ask for help.
There's a woman I do a lot of work with, like workshops and things like that. And we used to, like, we would create a roadmap together and we would do these workshops, and we would try to divide up the day into its parts, and you'd get this part and I get that part. And we used to try to, like, almost like, it's time to start working on that piece for you. So you're going to take it on and you're going to grow that muscle. And then the last few times we've done this, we're like, yeah, I don't want to do that at all. I just want to do the things that I'm comfortable with, and you do the things that you're comfortable with, and I'm fine with that. It's not changing. I'm fine. I'm good at those. You're good at those. Let's stick with that. Let's make it easy, right? So going with the flow and taking the easy route isn't, it's not like you're cheating yourself necessarily. You go with the flow.
Yeah. Look, I think that is a beautiful way to end this conversation. As much as I could chat to you for hours and hours, which of course we've already done, and we will do more of. But I think that idea of being able to create ease and go with the flow is a beautiful way to go. That is the one of the ways that you can certainly feel like you are being enough.
Beautiful.
Thanks everyone for having a listen, and hope you enjoyed our chat, our live chat today. Ian, it's awesome that I got to do this with you today, and I can't wait for the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate this.